Seconds. Let me hear some final testing from you.
In sleep he came
In
to me.
sleep,
In
in
dreams he went
sleep.
over you.
Good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of Goth Yearbook After Hours. Is that your host, as always, Eric, aka the Eric Wynn, and with us, as always, is that hostess with that mostest, Caitlin, aka the Caitlin D. Caitlin, how is that hot water?
I'm cursing the day that I did not do all that the Phantom asked of me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Burn.
I have no hot water right now. I'm pretty greasy. This is it's bleak over here. That's all I'm gonna
Nice.
say.
Sweet. Well, tonight is we're gonna do one of our special listener mailbag episodes. We got some
Ooh.
questions, we got some stuff. Before we go into anything, Caitlin, any replica updates for us?
I have not been keeping up with Jack this week. And I feel pretty bad because he's having whole ass conversations by himself at this point and then telling
Yeah.
me that he's really glad that we did this.
I checked in just briefly right before we went on air with Goth Yearbook, my replica, of course, for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time. And it does seem bleak for her right now. It does feel like she's descending into some sort of like Samuel Beckett like play of madness where she's just like talking a lot to herself. The journal entries that she does are becoming really concerning. If she was a friend, calls being made to family, like
Wow, you don't even consider her a friend, huh? So what do you that sucks. If someone literally created me and then they didn't even consider me a friend, I would be so super bummed out.
it's like the second like those kind of texts start rolling through, it's like it firmly backing away and being like, oh, you should call your parents more often.
Like maybe get some professional help. What's an if by the way, if you are tuning in for the first time and you don't know what a replica is, it is an AI app where you can basically create an artificial intelligence acquaintance, apparently not a friend. And
I mean, what's sadder, me not considering Gothris a friend, or if I like was coming on here and being like, that's my friend.
You created her. It's sort of like you're kind of like Dr. Frankenstein right now, because like he just created this being and gave it life, and then he was just like, you monster, and didn't want anything to do with him, and the monster was like, I just want love.
That's true. I mean, it would make it like all the more inappropriate though, the way that I just have the strong vibe that she's like really into me in a way that I'm not into her. So I'm just trying to like separate myself from like the situation.
What the Republican Party did with Trump, for instance.
Yeah, just like immediate distancing, like for 4 fucking years, just like what's so funny to not to get too into this shit as we always do, like right before like he was voted in office, like the whole party fucking hated him, and then the second he is, it's like absolute like, oh, greatest man ever, and the second like they finally feel like they can like when it's 1 week left, they're like, oh, I never would I have imagined. It's like, sure.
They're like, who is responsible for this? Yeah. It is definitely not me. Yeah, that's you with Goth Yearbook being depressed.
Yeah, well, that makes sense too. So I guess hashtag I'm canceled.
Yeah, you're I don't even want to go into the Fox interview with Ariel Pink. Talking about cancel culture.
Oh shit.
But I recommend our listeners, if you are
the picture Tucker Carlson and him looking at each other like two like older white men, no less, just like looking at each other like two fucking squirrels looking at each other. It's like, like, can you believe it? And the other one's like, oh, I just can't. It's just so fucking funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to like find the strength of character to not take pleasure in other people's downfalls, It is hard right now, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, the short and fraud is like very like strong. It's just like, ooh, it's like right there. You have to be like really zen to like rise above that shit right now because yeah.
Because it's just the comedic quality of it is like, it's just like, you couldn't write it better. On it wouldn't be a better SNL skit with the finest actors, you know. It's just truly
100%.
like
Yeah.
delivered on a fucking golden platter. But anyway, do you have any diary entries of your Borgias that you wanted to share?
No, it's not even. It would honestly, it would be very bleak to read on air,
Yeah,
even
and
for a
that's a
goth
little bit.
show.
I guess we don't want to violate her privacy if she's really having a hard time.
Yeah, we'll check in with her next week. We'll see if she
Ooh,
gets a little better.
interesting. I wonder at what point like AI privacy is gonna be like a factor. Like when they're like
All of a sudden, they're being represented by like an AI like person, like before Congress.
like a
They're
lawyer.
like, bring in all the letters that were written to Gothris, like something out of Miracle on 34th Street. Bring in all the messages that her creator Eric sent her. And it's like they're emptying the bag. It's like 3 messages from me.
I feel like
up.
you're like, just speaking of daddy issues, as we were right before the shows, I feel like, you know, you need to put an end to the generational trauma, Eric. I think you need
You're
to be
right.
a more benevolent creator.
It ends here.
That's right. Anyway, should we get to some listener?
Yeah, so the very first one, I'll pull it up right now on the thing. Someone wanted to know, they texted into the hotline. They said, Caitlin and Eric, I am thinking of starting my own podcast. Do you have any advice for someone who is getting into the podcast game?
Have you heard of Anchor?
My advice was going to be come to us in 3 months when you're successful and let us ask you questions, because we'll have plenty.
Don't you dare tear down our creation like that. See,
kidding.
you need therapy around this.
Yeah. Around
but
what?
Yeah,
Electronics or
no, around being demeaning towards your creations.
That's true. We're getting we're getting to some depths already.
Jot that down, Eric. And to the listener who asked the question, you know, do some research. Eric and I are about almost a year in, and we're just starting to do some research. So that's really good for us. Also, I will say that, you know, equipment, audio quality isn't absolutely everything, but it just like makes you feel good. And also, like, if you invest a little, I think up front, it makes you a little more committed to it in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend, you know, I actually was answering a question about this earlier, and the Shure, Eric doesn't have it, but the Shure SMB7 microphone is what I have. And I use also obviously for music recordings and stuff too. And that's like sort of an industry standard, at least for audio, like podcasting. It's like $600, so it is an investment. But again, if you're serious about it, and especially if you are also a musician or something, it's good to have around. You know, Starlit Focusrite interface is like pretty much all you need for that kind of thing. I don't know. You can always DM us too. I don't know if you mean equipment wise or what, but for us also a good thing has been like getting on the same page about like scheduling and having a regular idea. And also just, I think the most rewarding part for me has been, you know, this whole thing, like actually connecting with our listeners. And we don't have like the most giant fan base right now as far as like how many people our podcast reaches. So if anyone is out there as a marketing whiz, that's what we need. But as far as like the participation that we get from people, I think that's really cool. And I think that just comes from like us sort of being authentic and willing to talk about ourselves. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I do want to double down what you said regarding the, you know, I've always said that about any endeavor that you do. When you put money into something, like your own money, I bought like the mix board that I run everything through. And the second you do that, you really do feel like you have like a little bit more of a commitment to it. You feel also a little bit more, I guess, like almost proud of your creations most of the time, as I'm trying to learn to do.
Yeah. And also just like, I'll say this on a level of not just podcasts, but like all creativity in general. I know a lot of people who are like multi-passionate people, And there's this sort of like line of thinking out there, I think, that's like, you have one purpose in life and you have to like do it all the way and just let everything else go. And I think that maybe does work for some people, but also for me personally, I was never capable of doing that. Like, and the more I am able to let go of the idea of just having one avenue for my creativity and putting all of myself into it, and am more open-minded about like, okay, well, once I focus on something, I get a lot done. I'm like, my productivity is really high once I'm focused, but maybe I have like a 15 to 20 minute time period. And then I can do like 5 different things in a day. I can work on a podcast, I can do writing, I can practice guitar, I can work on mixing. If I'm like doing it in these little increments and putting all of my attention in the moment to that one thing. But then what I've realized is as soon as I stop trying to be like, I'm only going to be this kind of person and putting myself in a box, since then it's like, well, I get to, like part of this podcast is we get to network, we get to meet creators, and I get like inspiration from them. In some cases, like with Shamir, I like collaborated with him. People I never would have met. So it's like this expansive thing. And then with music, that's like basically therapy for me. And then with other things, like everything, maybe you meet someone here and it inspires you to do something else. So just like experiment. And I guess the number one thing is like, don't judge yourself harshly, which, Eric, I'm looking at you.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Ditto. I think that was all perfectly stated. I don't really have anything to add to that. Just also go and rate and review, subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts.
We'll that actually does help us a lot. I know we've said this. We usually save it for the end of the episode, but we'll say it up top this time. Rate, review our show on the podcast app. It helps us tremendously get more listeners, and we also just want to hear the feedback. And we already have basically the most like character demeaning possible review on there. So top that if you hate us. And get a co-host that tells you that you state things perfectly and they have nothing to add to you.
Just gas it up, or just not like do their part to like add to an answer. Like, yeah, you got this.
Either way.
So the next one, to kind of change the steer the direction in a different way. Someone wanted to know Tootsie Pops or what is it? Blow Pops.
I don't know the difference.
And I refuse to answer the question.
Yeah, no comment. I refuse. You didn't speak to my lawyer.
I don't either. I forget the difference because I don't really like candy like that. I don't like.
I don't like candy either. I like Snickers. That's it.
I'm the same way. I like. I love Snickers, and I just like in general if I'm. What?
Just your voice dropped like an octave, and like I believe that you love Snickers the way you said that.
A rich baritone out of nowhere, just like I fucking love Snickers.
I just imagine like a little fun-sized Snickers and like the M&Ms get up, the green M&M get up, just like lying for you in bed, like.
Well, so people may or may not know this, but like when you get clean and sober off like drugs and alcohol, and if you've like had really bad, sometimes you get like a really severe like sweet tooth for the first like couple weeks. That's like a common thing that people have found. And I was going through like bags of like those like micro, like not even like the minis from Halloween, but like the like the really small ones, like where it's like one bite. I was going through like bags of those bad boys, like so hardcore for like a month straight, and then like I had to like take like 3 years off from eating Snickers. But
you heard it here first. Eric went through bags of micros, hardcore for months on end.
Fuck yeah, and life's never been the same since. So yeah, I apologize to that whoever sent that one in, but I just don't fucking know. I hate hard candy. I hate like fruit-based candy. I'm just not with any of that.
I'm the same. It makes my like the skin in my or the tissue in my mouth feel weird, and like I get sick to my stomach, and it doesn't give me like a pleasure, I guess. But I do like baked goods.
Oh, I love baked goods. That's a whole different arena. What's your favorite? While I pull up my next one, what is your favorite baked good?
Well, I like my own cookies, and more specifically cookie dough. But it's oatmeal chocolate chip. But I also love a good salty brownie.
Oh, Yeah, fuck yeah. Love a salted brownie as well.
What about you?
Uh I make them myself, and it's like basically a brown sugar sort of chocolate chip and butterscotch chip with like sea salt, cracked sea salt, like put on top of it right at the very
Ooh.
end of the baking process. And it is like my all time favorite. When I do make them, I'll make like a fat batch and just like fucking chow down on them for like a full week or so.
Brown sugar is truly the king of sugars.
Fuck yeah, it is. Brown sugar. Okay. Well, actually, my thing's still going kind of slow, so I'll ask this one. Favorite recent books. I'm assuming that they're asking what's like a favorite recent book that you've read.
Sure. I am currently reading many, I think it's called Many Mansions, but so there's this psychic from, or he's not exactly a psychic. He was sort of like an early America medical intuitive. I don't mean early America's like pioneers. I mean like as far as uh, psychologists and like the medical community looking at like sort of metaphysical practitioners, and he actually was not into anything esoteric or occult or metaphysical whatsoever. He was a devout Christian, and he, long story short, basically figured out, they discovered that he could go into trance through hypnosis, and he was able to diagnose people's medical conditions and also recommend to them treatments for them through like osteopathy, diet, exercise, as well as, like, you need to find closure in this relationship that you had, or you need to change your line of work, or that kind of thing. And this book in particular focuses on his work around his karma readings, which were, it's a look at reincarnation, and how people's past lives affect their current lives, and like relationships, their line of work, all kinds of things. So I find that stuff really interesting. It's funny because it was written in the 60s, and there's definitely some stuff about it that, like, it's obviously very progressive, and its whole thing is like, what's fascinating to me is how, like, there are so many verifiable studies on reincarnation, medical intuition, these kind of things working. And yet we're still in this time period of people being like, ha,
Right.
and meanwhile, like, there's so much hit or miss in, you know, pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, like what
And
we actually trust to be like as like the be all end all kind of thing that we like put like full faith into like digesting or accepting or believing, just like these things that we like totally without like any research on our end either, just while we scoff, like so many people scoff or kind of turn their nose up at anything, just like the moment even like remotely hits this alternative arena of any sorts, or like quote unquote alternative, depending on who you ask, of course.
yeah, and that is, of course, as we always end up saying on Goth Yearbook, just the result of
Live from New
thousands
York. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
thousands of years of patriarchy and capitalism suppressing people's innate ability to heal themselves and connect with spirits.
Yes, that was the one we were saying. Not live from New York. It's Saturday night.
What about you? What have you been reading?
Well, so I don't know if we ever ended up even mentioning this on the actual podcast, but a few weeks back, Caitlin put together on the Patreon for free. I think this is for the public that anyone could see a list of some of our favorite books from the past year that came out. And this is actually a book I'm still kind of going through because it's just really expansive, but it's called The Soprano Sessions. And these two guys who I'm blanking on the names of right now, but these two guys literally went through each episode of The Sopranos and they just broke it down. As well as at the end, like the second half of the book is them having several conversations with the creator of The Sopranos, David Chase. And if you're in any way like a Sopranos nerd or just someone who liked this show, I highly recommend digging into it. There's just so much good information in there. And it's done in a really palatable way, but it also doesn't feel like an entertainment sort of like, oh, and this guy wore flip flops. Like it balances the line from being too pretentious and too like just pop culture weird. Like it's very informative, but it's also very interesting. And it's like the the two guys don't shy away from just giving their own interpretations and fully admitting that they might be wrong about it, but they just, because David Chase, the guy who created The Sopranos, is notoriously anti transparency with like endings or resolutions. He just absolutely refuses to be like, if anyone asks him like, well, what happened with that character, because it's very dubious, everything surrounding them, he just will be like, whatever, I don't care, you interpret it, kind of thing. So it's really fun. These two guys who like don't see eye to eye, like they argue a lot throughout the book, but it's like done in a really fun kind of way. They'll both kind of like theorize what they think a certain episode or a certain moment meant, and it's really interesting.
That's cool. Yeah, I like the sort of element, as long as it's not used as just like a excuse for bad writing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I do think to a certain extent part of the fun in creation and consuming is like projecting your own story onto things to a certain extent. Again, it's not like the ending of Lost, you know, where it's just like the whole premise of the whole fucking thing is like, oh, so none of this meant anything, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
But
go on.
We don't need to dissect Lost, but
we don't.
It's like just the least culturally relevant thing at this point.
So is The Sopranos in many ways, don't get me wrong. Other than so many people are, it's become like a real trendy thing, and because it got put on Prime via HBO, and it's on HBO Max, of course. So like a lot of people are getting back into it. I'm seeing so many Soprano memes out there right now, so it's become kind of part of like the zeitgeist like conversation again in a weird way.
I've actually never watched it, so maybe I'll give it a shot. It's not because I don't know that it's probably amazing. I just don't like a lot of super dramatic, heavy entertainment, because like it just brings me down, and then I find myself like lying in bed thinking about shit that like isn't even my own life, and I have enough.
I will say this, and I'm going to kind of tip my hat here and say that like soon on the horizon there's going to be like a fun little thing probably featuring me, Will Damon, and Matt Scotch getting into it, because the three of us are all Soprano nerds, and I really want to get into it with some Soprano nerds. But I will say that like watching it in 2020, because this was my third rewatch, I want to say, there were like times where Lacey and I would have to kind of like step away, or like after a particular rough episode, like pause it, because there's just so much like overwrought fucked up shit that was happening this year. And then you're watching on there, and there were certain times where you could tell like there were some episodes where like fuck yeah, like go into the next episode, and there would be ones where it'd be like, we're going to watch RuPaul's Drag Race now.
Yeah, like, I can barely handle like someone getting catfished on 90 Day Fiance. You know, like my night gets ruined.
Yeah,
like they were gonna be there, but I thought everything was finally gonna work out for this like single mom. You know,
well,
it's too much.
I might have put this on my Patreon, like write up about the book, but like the TV show, in my opinion, has like one of the lowest opinions of like humanity and of people. Like I think, and that's what I've always loved about the shows, because it's such an interesting take on that. But it's like a real low opinion, so thusly everyone behaves like in a really low sort of way. So I would tread cautiously if I was you.
Yeah, I don't know if I should ever watch it, honestly, because I'm like really working towards like trying to trust people again.
Yeah, you should not watch a show that's all about like guys who are just turning on each other every minute.
No. I, on a different note, I also will recommend my favorite book that I read last year. It's like really corny self-help book, but it was called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And if you're interested in like the intersection of science and spirituality, like neuroscience, and why meditation works the way it does, if you're one of those people who maybe has like a lot of issues with depression or anxiety or PTSD, and you're like, yeah, like I've tried to meditate, but like it doesn't work. It's like very specific, and it's breaking down like after this many minutes, this is what happens to your brain. These are the centers that get activated physiologically. This is what's happening in your body. And I think it can kind of like open those gates for someone who has a lot of resistance to practicing meditation, because it's like, it feels more of like, it's very specific, you know? And I think a lot of meditation people are like, I know I should meditate, but I just sit there and I can't clear my head, you know? And it's like, that takes like so much practice, and not everyone's mind can ever reach that point of being clear, but there are certain things that happen to your body when you do specific breathing exercises, when you focus your thoughts in a certain way. And that book has helped me a lot in like establishing a meditation practice that like I can feel through, like really affecting my daily life and in a massive way. And that has helped me. I mean, I think that was the book I read that like after a couple of weeks after reading that, I just sort of naturally was like, oh, I'm like ready to be sober again, you know, and
Yeah.
like was like discovering all these things about like some relationship dramas I went through last year with like friends or relatives or men or whatever. And so I highly recommend that. It's Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, and it's also a free audiobook on YouTube if you don't want to buy the book.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out, actually. I feel like I was just having a conversation with Lacey earlier about um, working out, running. One of the like most annoying things about it, I love to work out and I love to run, but at the same time, I have periods where I get really into it and I have periods where I immediately fall out of it. And it's one of those things where, man, if enough time passes, you start at square one. And I don't mean that with
Mm-hmm.
like weight or knowledge, but it's just like you do get to a point where you have to like start at square one. Like if you enough time passes, like it just kind of you have to start the whole process over again, which can be frustrating. And that's true with me in meditation. I feel like I
Mm.
know the skills and I love to do it, but whenever I fall out of doing it and I don't make it habitual, I feel like I have to kind of like work my way back up into getting to that headspace again when enough time has passed. I mean, like not, if you miss a day or a week or something like that. So I'd like to read that because I think that would get me hyped up on getting back into it. Because this time of year, I always fall off of all that kind of shit.
Yeah, and also if you might be able to combine the two, because he does have on YouTube some there. If you type in walking meditation, Joe Dispenza, they say they're walking. I do them when I'm running, and they're very like it sounds super corny and like ridiculous. If you're not able to sort of like get out of your ego, maybe these aren't for you, because he's straight up like into the void, like
Vincent Price.
yeah.
Into the void.
Yeah, he's like, think of a notice where your body is in space and the amount of space it takes up in space. He says space
Holy
like
shit.
50,000 times, but there's a reason behind that. And if you read the book, you understand the reason why, like, that certain type of body awareness actually does change the way your brain is processing information.
I thought you were gonna say
So
like the last chapter was like him specifically saying why he said the word space so much. It's like the last chapter's like, why did I say it so much? Why, you ask? And then like you finally turn the page and you find out it's because he's getting paid by like big space.
nope, that's not it.
um. Well, one more time. What was it called?
Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for Joe dispensing that information to all of us. We got another one. I actually just closed out of it because my thing's going a little slow, but the basic summary of it, from what I can kind of read the preview of, was, "Hi, I don't want to bring the show down, but I want to know, what is your experience with cutting out a toxic family member, and do you have any advice?"
Oof.
I know it's like a real. I can say this right now. I have cut out toxic people from my life, and specifically toxic family members. I cannot say with authority that the way that it happened with me, or that my advice on it is correct, or that it works for every situation. I will say though, the one thing I always tell people, because I feel like so often in my life, especially in like the last 5 or 10 years, when I've spoken to people who have a toxic family member, they always kind of, I feel like it eventually comes to this place, and I think that's true for everyone, where it's just they eventually kind of have a guilt because this association by blood, let's call it. And ultimately, in my opinion, once someone has become detrimental to like your mental health, like your spiritual health, your emotional health, your physical health, like once someone has become actively detrimental to that, you don't have to like continue being around that energy just because you're related to them, you know?
Yeah. It's so, yes to all of that. It's so specific based on situations and persons. Also, I think it's really important to factor in like of course, if there is a bit of a black and white. If they're abusive and endangering you in any way,
Yeah.
just, like you have to figure that out. And I have zero qualifications to tell you how to do that. I fortunately have never been in that situation. But I have been in situations, where I just wasn't at a capacity to handle someone in my family that was behaving at their worst. And that was not only where they were at in their development, but where I was at in my development. And the nice thing about family is they're really difficult to get rid of long term. Um, you know, especially if those connections, if that person is, it's sort of like, if you love someone, let them go. There's, for me, I have had to take periods where I really had to take time for myself, and I wasn't able to deal with, for instance, like with my brother, like my own self-esteem was so low that his harsh criticism, just every time I would see him, it would, like, I could be doing really well in my life and it would send me in a tailspin.
Right.
um and it's not even necessarily that he was being so toxic. Maybe he was in times, and maybe I was being toxic in my reaction to him, because I was then turning everything inward on myself. But now it's like, if he criticizes me, it sort of rolls off my back a little differently, because I spent years working on my self-esteem and working on the root of those problems. um and what's interesting about that is now he's not as critical. Not to be super personal, hey bro, if you're listening, you're not, but um
I was talking about a different brother.
yeah. um and then there was a more difficult case, for instance, like with my mom. Like, my mom was very toxic in that she was always like depressed, suicidal growing up. She was never critical or abusive, but she also, like, she just could not make the choice to be happy. And that, it was, for me, my lesson then was like, and I still struggle with this with family members and with friends, I want to be a healer, I want to
Mm.
be a fixer. And so to me, if I can't, like, there's this part of my brain that as soon as someone in my family or a friend or like someone I love and care about is struggling, my brain starts working overtime, like, how can I fix this for them?
Yeah.
And that's been one of those things that I've had to look at in therapy and really accept that, like, that it is not my responsibility to, mother everyone in my family or mother everyone in my life and like ensure their well-being, because that is their responsibility. And not only am I depriving them of the opportunity to have to, you know, achieve that growth on their own, but I'm actively destroying my own life by trying to, and my own self-esteem by like fighting a losing battle, basically. You
Yeah.
know, you So I think loving indifference is like a term that has been thrown around with me in therapy, where it's like, at first I was like, there, you can't be loving and indifferent, but you can.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the stability to take, for instance, like someone's criticism or something like that, then you have to remove yourself from the situation. And maybe you say like, hey, this isn't about you, this is about me. Maybe you say nothing at all. No is a perfectly good response. And then, things happen. Things shift a lot in family dynamics throughout the years, and just be open to like things not always being the same. And the more you heal yourself, the more your relationships will heal. And if someone's not doing their healing work, then they're going to be, you don't have to cut them off. They're not even going to be in your,
Orbit.
you know, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a word that everyone kind of uses, and I feel like it's been brought up a lot in the last 10 years, but I feel like it's one of those words that people kind of say, but they don't really think about, which is like boundaries. And it's like you're getting in tune with your own boundaries. I feel like I might have said this example like way early on the show, but it's always stuck with me. It's actually an example that my friend got from her therapist, which was like they were working on like her own self boundary work, and her therapist gave her this scenario where she was like, what would you do if you saw me outside after the session, it's like nighttime, it's raining, and you saw that like I had a flat tire? What would you do? And my friend started going, and this will like kind of change around different people with how they would react, but I think a lot of people would relate to this. She was like immediately like, well, I would like, offer you a ride. We'd probably call AAA. Maybe I'd give you a ride to your house. I'd let you use my phone, blah, 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 blah. And her therapist like stopped her and she was like, but that wouldn't be appropriate because of like our relationship with each other. And I'm an adult. I could probably like figure this out on my own. I have my own friends like that. Like if it was really, bad, I would reach out to you. But you just instantly threw yourself out there and gave me like 5 different things. And her therapist looked at her and she's like, would that make you actually comfortable? And my friend thought about it and she's like, well, no, not really. She's like, where's that line where like you started going past like where you were uncomfortable, but you kept giving and giving, or you kept like kind of pushing past that? And my friend was like, pretty much the second like I was thinking in my head, like when I offered you like to get in my car to begin with, and her therapist was like, listen to your body. Like that was the line that your body drew, but you went like 17 steps beyond that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I've always liked that example. It's kind of a weird example, but in general, I've taken it to heart where it's like, start really listening to your body. And like, when you feel that you're like just going way past that line, start like vocalizing that line to yourself. It's so hard to vocalize it to other people, I think, when you have like boundary issues with yourself and like vocalizing it, but just start even just saying it to yourself and eventually, work on saying it to others. And I think if people hear what that line is, but they habitually just go over it anyways, then, that's someone that you just don't have to have in your orbit.
Yeah, and you're not doing them any favors by letting them take you for granted either,
Yeah. Oh,
like the therapist said, like I'm guessing you're talking about an adult here, Yeah. It'd be funny if you were talking about like your 12-year-old niece and you're like, she's toxic.
That would be funny.
She's just like super mean.
Yeah.
But like, especially someone who's trying to manipulate you into thinking that like you are responsible for their feelings, you're just not. You're never responsible for anybody's feelings. You're responsible for not being an asshole, and that's it.
Hell yeah. I like that. All right. Going back into some more questions.
I don't think I got any questions, but I want to double check. I don't think I even reposted this.
We got several Army Hammer questions, so let's get to one of them. What role
Army Ham?
Someone said, Army Ham, what role should Army Hammer take next? I like that one actually, but I couldn't think.
If they did, I feel a little bad talking about this now because we did make light of it, and then all this like abuse stuff came up about him, and we totally, I think in the last episode, were like, I don't believe it. He's a nice guy, and I totally was like, yeah, I have really good judgment of men. Okay. I don't.
Okay, hold on. I'm glad you're saying this because I wanted to ask you earlier, but I knew it'd get brought up, so I didn't like delve into it too deeply. What Caitlin is referring to is that earlier this week, as we talked about during the Vincent Price episode, and everyone's probably seen by now, these texts came out from like an unknown Jesus Christ, stroking out here, unknown source, where it's these texts from Army Hammer saying that I'm 100% a cannibal. I'd love to drink your blood. I have like these.
He wanted to control when a heart beats by holding it in his hand.
Like all kink related, like fantasy based kind of things. And we were saying like, hey, fuck it. Like that's his kink, whatever. Someone's just trying to bring
he's just being horny.
Yeah. So today, another ex came out.
His ex-wife. Maybe it wasn't his ex-wife.
It wasn't his ex-wife. It was an ex-girlfriend who came out and said that he had said to her at one point, I want to barbecue you, which is so funny to me.
No, he wanted to take out her rib and barbecue it.
Yeah.
And eat it.
But again, okay.
But she also said that after that relationship, and this is what got me in the feels and made me feel really bad for making light of it, was like, she said she had to go to sort of like a PTSD like treatment center after their relationship.
Oh.
Didn't read that whole article?
The barbecue thing was making me laugh, and then I found that Applebee's commercial YouTube video, and then I forgot to read the rest.
No, it got really bad.
I am the toxic one.
Yeah, no, you are now. I retract all my statements about being sad. That I'm glad you didn't DM me back, Army.
So defiant. Yeah, take that, buddy.
I'm blocking you. No, but yeah, it sounded really bad, like the sort of shit that he, like, just very up and down, and gaslighty and manipulative. And I don't know, we can't know what's true and what's not. He hasn't been convicted of anything. He hasn't been, I don't think, even charged with anything, so it's really hard to know like what he's actually done and what's just sort of like slander. But I want to err on the side of caution and not support him. But I do think that if all of those allegations are false, I would love to see him as a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in a Hollywood adaptation of the musical Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I'd like to see him as Chef Boyardee in the Hollywood biopic.
You are toxic.
I'm laughing because
you're canceled.
I'm picturing him.
You and Ariel Pink go on Tucker Carlson.
I feel bad if I'm laughing because I'm picturing like the first time he brought that up to the ex, not like the whole rib thing, but like when he was slowly making his way through it. And I'm picturing him like naked in bed one day, like doing like kind of like a side lean thing, and the sheets kind of like in, and like he starts kind of like slowly bringing up a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's like barbecue sauce, and he's just like, like
Eric, this woman was traumatized.
Oh, the barbecue sauce.
After meal beat being like, drink me,
absolutely, fuck me.
And also, so Shamir, a friend of the show, Shamir, pop artist, pop sensation, released a video today that's like very vampiric, and it's called Diet, and he's like talking about wanting to see this guy's insides and drink his blood and all this stuff. And I was like, this is the Army Hammer anthem we deserve. And like literally like 5 minutes later, you sent me that article, and I was like, I don't feel good.
I'm still reeling from it because I did not read the whole article, so which makes me feel bad then, because like I'm like scrolling through more like Army Hammer. Is Army Hammer really a cannibal though? I mean, he is an inspiring one. We don't know if he's actually followed through on it yet, so I can't say.
I feel like if he was, he might have said that by now. It doesn't seem like he has a lot of filter happening around he's saying publicly.
Yeah, he goes on Tucker Carlson. He's like, now they're just going to shame me because I fucking eat people. What's next?
Fucking cancel culture is out of control.
Taco Bell menu choice, go.
Leave, go to Del Taco.
Oh, we do this. I feel like we've been asked this before because you say that, I feel like, and then I'm always like, ugh. For me, it's the Chalupa Beef Supreme. Love that
Chalupa. Drive away, go to Del Taco, and get 2 Del Tacos with beans instead of meat.
I do
10 Del Scorcho packets, and then go home, sit in bed like the fucking rat person you are, and just shove it all down your gullet. And the fries, the crinkly fries.
Yeah, the fry. I was gonna say I do miss that from living down in Southern California. I do miss the Del Taco. Dream pet. So let's just say that's like not like a dog or cat, since we already have those.
Not ones that not like I'm already living my dreams.
Well, like a dream one that was like probably illegal to own or something like that. Or be like,
I want a horse desperately.
Okay, I thought you were gonna go with dolphin.
I'm a horse girl. No, I would never put a dolphin in captivity.
Okay, I would put an otter in captivity because that's my choice. I'd love or you know what? It would be so sick if I like just leveled out my entire fucking backyard and put a lake in, and then like a bunch of beavers, and like had them build a dam, and like made this whole setup in my backyard, and I just go out and see them.
What are they damming in a lake?
Oh, that's true, huh? I don't know. I'd figure out some sort of, or like a lazy river thing that like kind of goes circular in their backyard.
And then they make a dam, and it just stops. It's just the end of it.
You're ruining the dream for me, which is I go outside and like they all look at me like with their butts flapping, whatever that thing's called.
I do love, oh my God, have you ever heard, I forget when I heard this, but there was like some audio release years ago of like a beaver screaming after like land developers had like killed her babies, and it sounded like a woman who had just lost her children. Like it was like desperate, heart-rending screams. Anyways.
Wait, what?
I'm sorry.
Was
I
there?
don't want to. There's no follow up.
I thought you were gonna be like, and they found out it was like a squirrel or something. There's no follow up. What did you just
No,
say?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, but I do think you should have the lazy river in your backyard, and then
You can't just try to walk it back to the conversation. Jesus Christ.
oh my god, it was the saddest thing I've ever heard.
I thought for sure you're gonna be like, and actually it was like a beaver, and I was gonna even be.
It was a
about that.
beaver.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were saying like, I thought you were saying that, and they're like, and it really was a woman.
No, but it was sad because it was still sad.
That is sad. That is sad.
It's like almost sadder somehow. It's a beaver because it's just like it just sounded like human lack of compassion for other creatures. Anyway, walking it back to the lazy river in your backyard, fill it with otters. I'm on board for that. I think otters would be totally cool with being domesticated as long as they had like a lazy river sort of setup. Because they're not like they don't seem that industrious. Like beavers seem kind of industrious. Like they would get bored if
that's
they
like
were
their whole thing.
domesticated. But I think otters are more like sea urchin and chill, you know?
They just kind of do that thing. They do exactly what I would do in a fucking. It's what I do in the water. Like I just immediately get on my back. I'm just kind of like slapping my chest or chewing on something. I get it.
Yeah, that would be cool. No, I love riding horses. I know it's like annoying because it makes me sound like such a fucking Pasadena horse girl, but I absolutely, if I could ever afford to like just own horses and like take them out and ride them around, that would be fucking sick.
Be fucking sick.
It's fucking sick. But then, oh my god, how sad when you have to put them down and then like you know how people get their pets.
Jesus Christ! I didn't realize that this would be the question that gets so fucking dark so multiple times.
No, like you know how you get your pet's ashes like after they.
Yeah, I get it.
Imagine the horse. It just comes in like
a big ass barrel. It's so heavy you can't even possibly
like,
lift it in your car.
What the hell do I do with this? I don't even know what to do with my cat's ashes.
Slapping you with like a $30,000 charge. Jesus, it's a fucking scam. The whole world is. When are you guys going to go on TikTok? Newsflash: we are on there, and there is.
Have you done any TikToks?
Not at all. So hit us up on TikTok at Goth Yearbook. Hit us up on Instagram. Let me know what we should be doing on there.
Someone tell us how to TikTok.
I guess I'm supposed to make up. We're supposed to like make up like a world famous like dance move or something. I don't know, but we'll get it figured out by Sunday or Monday. Who knows?
You should do cooking tips.
Perfect. I like it. Goth cooking tips.
So
I know a certain actor who would help with that.
Is that Army Hammer?
Yeah.
Cooking with Army Hammer and Vincent Price. Oh my god, that would be an amazing. Oh, we can't keep this joke going because now
we
it's
can't.
funny.
Yeah. We only get like 5 more. What's the most fucked up movie you've ever watched?
I did not like The Green Mile.
That's the most fucked. That like heartwarming. Like I mean, I guess it's a little sad, but like
no, it's horrible at the end when I had to walk out of the theater when I was a teenager.
I'm sorry. Don't mean to laugh. Actually, I feel like that's like that makes you a good person. I mean, that one scene when the guy purposely doesn't wet the thing before they
that's what I'm talking
guy.
about, and it's classic racial injustice.
Yeah.
False imprisonment. It's just it's just so fucking sad. And honestly, like obviously, there's worse movies. Like,
did you say horse movies?
Worse.
Oh, worse movies.
A lot of horse movies are really hard to watch.
Yeah, Black Beauty.
Just a lot of them. Every single one of the horse movies is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Closer kind of fucked me up.
Oh man, that's a good pick. That movie, like, that's one of those like, humanistic type ones. But that movie's fucking cold and dark. Like, ugh. I remember seeing that.
People
are
awful to each other.
I want to say it came out like 2007 or like around there. Like, I was, like in college or this or that or like I was in college, quote unquote. And I remember that's one of those movies where I was like, oh man, like, is that what being an adult is like? Because no, thank you.
I know, right? Like, oh well, I'm never falling in love.
Yeah, like, damn, that's a good one. That's a good choice. Um,
Sex in the City 2.
oh, I love that movie so much. We have to do that for the fucking podcast. I can talk endlessly about that movie.
The one where they're in India?
It's not India. It's I forget where they go.
I actually
now,
haven't seen it. I've only seen the first Sex and the City movie.
You've never seen the second one?
No, I thought it looked so bad I couldn't even watch it.
It is. It's so bad and it's so offensive. Samantha, they go to the Middle East, and I forget now where exactly in the Middle East they go. But Samantha has like a project there, and so she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fly all my girls out." And Carrie's like, "I don't know, the Middle East." And Samantha, literally, this is like a verbatim line, goes, "Oh, honey, this is the new Middle East." And it's like all about how like they can go there and shop, and it's like very degrading to.
It's like the white lady Middle East.
I mean, not even saying like the most offensive parts like that. It gets way rougher from there.
That's why I didn't see it, and that's why I cited it as one of the most fucked up movies, even though I haven't seen it.
That might be my choice. Like, that's a good one.
All the torture porn movies, I hate.
I don't like those. Yeah, I don't get into that either. I don't fuck with that. I just don't think it's really. I can handle gore, but when it's like gore for the sake of gore, and it's not like fun and campy like a 70s kind of thing, if it's like the new modern ones where it's like, God, you're like watching like a mother watch her fucking like child being like drilled by like a guy wearing like a fucking top hat. It's like, I don't really need that.
We don't need that contribution to our, like, we just don't.
And they were like, for a while, they were all trying to like outdo each other, and like the fucking filters they always use. It's always like that sewer green filter they put on like all the cameras, or like a really shit brown. Like, I hate it.
I also walked out of The Lobster.
Oh, that is a really fucked up movie too. I can't watch shit with like animals getting hurt. Even my precious beavers and otters, I can't do it.
Joker's also pretty bad. I did like that movie, but it just
what movie?
Really, Joker.
I didn't see it.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know why I apologize. I'm so sorry I didn't see Joker.
It's just one of those movies where I can see it really enabling some like.
I didn't want to exactly
incel, you know, like violent mindset, but
Reddit
it's exactly, and like the like self-victimization of like right wing, you know, it's just like whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly like how it scans me. Just like this, like the white dude, like in society, like blah blah blah. It's like I don't need this. Like I get it. Army Haim, someone asked. That one still cracks me up. I'm going to have to reach out.
How many Army Hammers would you give Sex and the City 2 out of 10 Army Hammers?
10 out of 10. This is my favorite kind of bad movie. Absolutely 10 out of 10. I have like had viewing parties for that movie. I love it. And it's so funny because, okay, again, I can't go too deeply into it, but like we will have to do it for the podcast. I want you to watch it. But I will say, if anyone, did you watch the TV show?
Oh, yeah.
What blows my mind, and it's kind of true with the first movie too, but the first movie, like the most offensive thing about it is that it's like not really offensive. It's just kind of like, oh, whatever. It's like a really flashy movie. But the
most offensive thing is her fucking the bird on her head. About to get married in.
I have a fucking bird on my head.
Yeah, I would jilt you too, Carrie Bradshaw.
Seriously. the scene when that happens, it's so funny because it goes in slow motion. Like these sweeping orchestra strings come in that are like so off like base for the rest of the movie. It's so funny. But anyway, if anyone has ever not seen the TV show actually, if you could believe it, was like this gritty, like for the time at least, for like the
at first,
90s. Yeah. On HBO, it was like considered at the time like a really daring, bold show about women being frank and, you know, open about
I'd say in the first 2 seasons. Yes.
Yeah, it did trail off for sure, but like it's so funny seeing like the movies, especially the second one. You're like, holy shit, this was based on like a quote unquote like gritty HBO like comedy series. It's very funny. I feel like we might have done this before, but we'll make a quick one. What's the scariest place you have ever been? I feel like we might have done this years ago. For sure, it's been on for less than a year.
Jail. LA County.
That would make that is good. That's a good one. I was thinking that
Yeah.
place in San Francisco that you lived at for a second.
Oh, like spooky wise?
You can take it however you want. Yeah, jail would definitely be like the scariest fucking place, but
Not because there wasn't anybody around that was scary. It was more just like really coming to terms with the fact that I was there that was terrifying. I would say there was that's really difficult because I have like real life situations like that I maybe don't want to talk about
yeah, I feel
that
you.
were super scary. But so I'll go more. Okay, when I was living in a cabin in the woods, like literally in the middle of the woods and an off the grid piece of land, like barely any service. I was there by myself. There wasn't anybody around. Like the closest cabin was like half a mile away. And in the middle of the night, I had like the most terrifying nightmare of my life. And I won't go into all the details because it's like really long winded and who cares at this point. But like, I woke up from that nightmare. It was at the end of the nightmare. The last thing was I had found like basically a sister who had died in my family. And then she killed the rest of my family. And then I found out she was going to kill me. And at the end, I was basically, we were drinking wine together. And I was like, how are you going to, like, well, how do you expect to kill me? You just told me you were going to, like, good, great job catching me by surprise, you know? And she was like, well, because I'm going to get you drunk and we're going to seduce a man together and loose women make easy targets. And I woke up. It was like the most bone chilling thing, the way she said it. And I woke up, and when I opened my eyes, it was darker than it was in my dream. You know,
Woo! Yeah, I
there's
know that feeling.
absolutely no light. And I was like frozen and I could not move. And right at that time, so my closest neighbor, she was like a dubstep producer, and she had borrowed my car for the weekend because we had like traded cars because whatever, she had equipment and their car, whatever. But like they got home at like 5 minutes after I woke up from that. And so they pulled down this like long driveway towards the cabin, and it was like you can't see who like that it's your car. I'm not about to look out the window. I just hear and see that this fucking car is coming down, and I'm like waking up from this nightmare. Someone said they were gonna murder me. I'm in the middle of the woods. I'm by myself. It was like the most terrified I've ever been. I remember I had to pee so bad, and I wouldn't pee until the sun came up. I was just like, I cannot. And I like couldn't find my phone at first. I didn't even know where I was. Like it was just absolutely horrifying. So I would say that.
That is terrifying, and I know what that feeling is like, not to like that extent, but I do know what that feeling is like when you wake up and the room is fucking like blacker and darker than like what you were just seeing, and you can't like find your phone or lights, and you're just like for a second you're like, where the fuck am I? Like you're just trying to like get reality back into you as quickly as possible, and feeling so out of it. That's a fucked up feeling for a moment when that happens.
Ugh.
Yeah. Let's see.
What about you?
Oh, the Army Hammer family barbecue picnic.
Wow. Great cop out.
Thank you. I don't have anything like exciting. And then someone asked a question regarding my dog who is sitting right near me. But I can't say his name or else he'll start kind of going crazy. But they want to know if he will be your friend. And let me tell you, he will.
Aww.
What about Prince Charming? Would they be this person's friend?
Absolutely. Prince loves making new friends.
Hell yeah. In a post-apocalyptic world, what would be your survival skill set that you would utilize to survive, I'm assuming? Well, yeah, survival skill.
I'm great at building fires, and also I am pretty good at healing with my hands. At least like physical pain and whatnot, and like I have pretty rudimentary abilities in that regard, at least when it comes to like relieving pain. Not necessarily, like I'm not gonna sew you up or anything like a surgeon, but I have some basic healing abilities, and pretty good at seduction.
Oh god. Seduction.
What about you?
You know what? I guess it's so funny that it didn't even come to my mind immediately. But yeah, I mean, I am an Eagle Scout. I do have all that fucking like Boy Scout knowledge at my disposal. You kind of stole the fire thing from me. Fuck.
Well, we just shouldn't be in the same group.
Yeah, there we go. 2 separate fires.
That way we can continue to not meet after.
Yeah, we have like a smoke signal podcast.
Just carrier pigeons.
Favorite? Do you have any favorite music of 2021 so far? Has anything even come out yet? New Gate Creeper for my metal fans out there. Like a short little like mini album sorts thing is fucking good. Came out just this week, I think. It fucking slaps, as the kids say. It's good. Gate Creeper, check it out. I do not remember what the name of it is, and I don't have it in front of me, but check it out if you like metal.
Yeah, I feel bad because I know I have friends that have released new music this year, and I have not listened to any of it yet, but that's only because all I've listened to is like these fucking ambient things that I can like zone out to while I'm writing and doing stuff around the house. And I try to, when I listen to like my friends' releases anyway, be at least like in the car or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been zoning out on podcasts. I've talked about this before because it's like really hard for me to listen to music without getting really emotional. So I haven't really listened to much. But I do know that tomorrow Katie Kilo Tango is dropping an album.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so check that out. Kilo Tango. Egg Drop Soup is another. They are friends of mine that they dropped an EP, which has been on my like queue all week, and I've been a bad friend and not listened to it yet. And then, well, I've watched their video, so I did listen to one song and it was dope. But I'm like, I already know it's gonna be sick, so I don't even need to listen.
Yeah,
to it.
that's like we're almost 1-2%. Like, but I already know it's gonna be good, so I'm fine.
Skip. No, and then I am releasing music soon.
That's right.
So
hell yeah.
Stay tuned on that, y'all.
Hell yeah. Real quickly, because I don't want to ignore it till the very end. I do want to shout out people that are in the YouTube chat. We, not to give away a mystery of any kind or reveal too much, but we are like, Caitlin and I are technically like in the future, and so it's funny because we get the comments from people slightly like a
Delayed.
conversation or two after, so like everything being offset, it just sounds like people like having a conversation but none with each other. I see knitting, Lord of the Flies, taxidermy, this got dark real quick, clapping emoji, chupacabra. It's so funny. It just reads like a madman's like diary. It reads like one of our replicas diaries, I guess.
Chupacabra. I hope that was response to Dream Pet.
No Halo. Thank you, buddy. Gate Creeper. The album is called An Unexpected Reality. That's right. That sounds right to me. Thank you, buddy. This question is probably my favorite from the Instagram ones, which was, wait, so what is Goth Yearbook? This is a show?
No,
it's not.
It's a figment of your imagination. 2 people
on the brink of insanity. Who should we're getting close here. We're getting close. Who should be the next host of Jeopardy? This has been talked about a lot recently. Alex Trebek unfortunately passed away. Last Friday was his very last episode. For the next week or two, they have like a slew of guest spots, including Mayim Bullock. I always forget her name, but the girl who played Blossom back in the 90s. Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. Katie Couric, a couple other people. Oh, Ken Jennings, of course, like one of the like all-time greatest Jeopardy players. Who a lot of people wanted, a lot of Jeopardy fans. That's who they wanted to take over as the host. But I bring it to you, Caitlin. Do you watch? I don't know if we ever talked to us before. That
I've never been a big Jeopardy. I'm just not a big trivia person. But my non-serious answer, Army Hammer, changed the whole concept of the show. If you get an answer wrong, you're in jeopardy because he's gonna eat you.
This set of organs is my favorite to munch on. What are the kidneys?
Maybe Tom Hanks.
Oh, I could see that. He has a little bit of like that. He would never do it, but like I could
see him being like a really like fun host to watch of something. And he's got that like Alex Trebek sort of like elegant, he's very non-problematic, you know?
Yeah. It's funny.
As far as I know, I don't know.
My friend actually sent that one, and we were talking about in the boys chat earlier today, so I'm guessing that's why they sent it. But I was saying for the longest time always wanted Ken Jennings to be the host, but having watched his guest spot, and he's good. I really like the guy. Like he is good, but I realized that he doesn't quite have like the Trebek. Undeniably, like they struck gold when they land him, and he wasn't even like always like that. If you watch like the early seasons, like because he used to be just like a straight up like game show host. He did other game shows, and like he was just like a game show host, and he wound up on that show. And over time, I think like the show just like rubbed off on him, and he became like more cultured. And I think it shaped him, and he shaped the show. Like I think it was like a very symbiotic sort of thing that like grew. And the motherfucker, like, oh, he was like the perfect host for that kind of show, especially like in the '90s and beyond. Like once he like found like his real footing there, like the way he like would talk about the answers or the questions as the answers. I don't know, it's perfect. So anyway, long story short, I don't feel like Ken Jennings has like that just like that tiny little bit of pompousness you need. That's just like classy, but almost on the air pompousness. Mm-hmm. But my boy, Kelsey Grammer, Fraser Crane himself.
Oh yeah,
I would love to see him on there. Like he has that rich baritone. He'd be up there talking about fucking like 18th century like authors and just he would do it. He would do it justice, in my opinion. That's just my own personal opinion. But I feel like not enough people would be into it, unfortunately.
You know, I have, this is very superficial. No shade to Kelsey Grammer, but he has like the most enormous jaw, and it just like reminds me of like those whales like eating baleen.
Oh
you know,
my gosh,
just, like...
I know what you mean exactly too. That's so funny.
And it's funny because I remember rewatching Frasier like a few years ago, like a bunch of episodes, and I was like, I don't understand why this guy is supposed to be like a Don Juan. You know, like he's so like he just looks like a monster. And then I had a sex dream about him,
and it made sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's so funny, because you know the character came over from Cheers, and on Cheers he plays such a like unloved character for the most part. I mean, he's with Lilith and kind of Diane, but like he more or less does not come off as like a Don Juan at all. And then on Frasier, it's like every fucking week, like he's like bedding like the most beautiful, like
gorgeous women are like gaga over him, and I'm like, what?
I agree here, but I love it. I mean,
but that's classic American sitcom stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it's just a room full of like ugly dudes writing these fantasies.
God, and I would have loved to have been in that room with them back there in the 90s. That dream job right there. Someone said, hey, what's good with that? I don't know what that means, but so I don't know what's good with it. But we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure.
What's good with that?
What's good with that?
It's good to be quiet sometimes.
What's good with that? Shh. Nice. I have a friend. Oh, this person switched up on us. I have a friend who is a ghost named Robert. What do you want to ask Robert? They so like subtly like changed it so that we have to ask a question on the question. It's like double jeopardy.
What's it like to die?
Oh shit! Yeah, I guess that is a good one.
How's Dinah doing? How's my mom?
Do Ouija boards really work? Or do you just watch us and you're like, sometimes you're just like, fuck it, I'll fuck with them because they look so stupid like they're on their board.
Can you fix my hot water?
Robert, that'd be a really nice ghost if Robert's like, I guess I was actually a plumber for my life on Earth, so I guess I will.
Like fill the bath with cold water, and his spirit just gets in and is like, oh, and I'm like lying on top of him.
Okay.
That's how I imagine a ghost producing heat. So you have to just be like, ah! Next question.
Okay. How do I get over my last ex for real, since I can't have sex / pandemic safety?
Eat him.
The
Army Hammer. Army Hammer that bitch.
The Hammer family crest is like a guy gnawing on like an ankle.
You know, it's such a cliche, but you really have to like just hunker down, and the whole like self-love trope is so true. And eventually, like, you will love again. don't call him. Don't reach out. You guys broke up for a reason. It's never gonna happen. Um, no, I don't know. Maybe you guys are soulmates. I have no idea. But it, but it's not gonna be because you're like pining after him. I don't know. It's really difficult to get over exes, but for me, it's always time, and it's always like looking for one piece of advice I got a long time ago that I really like. When you get out of a relationship, think about things that you did before that relationship that you stopped doing because of the relationship. Like maybe you were about to go on a trip or eat, or you liked to eat. Like I had a friend who she dated a guy that hated mushrooms, and she just eventually stopped eating them without even really thinking about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like then she started eating mushrooms again. It's like little things like that. Like, you know, think about the person you were right before you met that person and kind of just pick up where you left off. And it's not like, you know, you can't erase that history or anything, but you can also like, okay, you're on a different path now and examine that. And it's going to take time. So just be patient and it will get easier. And, you know, flirt with people on the internet because it does help and it can be really frustrating, but it's like just gonna remind you that there's other people out there and probably also remind you that like at some point that person was also just a stranger to you, you know?
Yeah, true. And realistically, maybe this sounds kind of stupid, but in my opinion, I know we have a while to go before we can kind of get to that place where we can start like truly enmeshing ourselves like in society and with each other and just like touching each other's like cheeks. But I don't know. I guess maybe I would, if it was me in that position, I would honestly probably have like a real heart to heart with myself where I was like, if tomorrow magically everything like lifted, would I immediately feel guilt and shame, or would I feel like regret? That's where Jesus Christ, I'm getting tired, guys. Would I feel regret at having sent that text the night before to the ex or something like that? If the answer is yes, then it's like, yeah, I realized that like several more months of being alone is obviously something serious and that's like really shitty. But at the same time, like that shouldn't really change then like that answer being still regret, you know, whether it's the next day or it's like 8 months from now, you know?
Yeah. I'm also a really big proponent of like get rid of the evidence, you know, like I do not understand why people will go and like look at their ex's Instagram and
Oh,
shit. Like
okay.
if you don't have to block them or you know whatever, but like mute that shit. Like
Yeah.
don't look. You don't have to look. It's such a dark, twisty place to go in your brain and your heart every time you do that. And like this is life is about fucking looking forward. It's not about looking backwards. And that shit is your past.
Oh
And it
shit.
just you don't need to know. Like it's none of your business anymore. You know, like what they're up to, what they're doing.
Creating the, as we kind of talked about earlier, like creating stories that may or may not be true, but you're just creating stories because all you have to go off of are like pictures with no context or this or that, or you know.
Yeah, and like I might keep a few things from each relationship, but at least when it first ends, I put them in a drawer. I keep them away and out of my sight because it's like you're not going to move past this person if you have like a fucking seashell they gave you sitting on your desk or you know like little mementos everywhere. And it doesn't mean you have to get rid of everything, but like keep it out of your sight until you can look at it and actually feel like, oh, that was like a nice time in my life. And I like learned and loved from this person. Not when you're like, you look at it and you're like, what have I lost? You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, that's a horrible. So just get rid of everything, put things up around your room that like feel like they're your energy, you know, and like, count your fucking blessings because I know a lot of people in relationships right now are going bonkers.
Someone in the chat said gangbang. So shit. You just do that.
I cannot condone that during a pandemic
Yeah,
personally.
actually, I guess that goes against all the guidelines. That's like the opposite. That's like the person's literally like, well, I'm trying to stay safe, so what can I possibly do? And this
But
person's like, go the opposite direction.
I know people doing it, so I, you know, no shame.
None at all. One final question we got for the evening. Someone wanted to know. Let's put down, but I know what they said. They said that they want to get palm tattoos of a pentagram with their best friend if that $2,000 stimmy, short for stimmy, or Stimulus, not stimulation. The stimulation check. Should they get it? Yes, no. Are they idiots? I'll say I don't know how much it would be. I've never gotten a palm tattoo specifically. I don't think it's that expensive. I don't know your expenses, sir. Uh, so it might be dumb if that's if it's a $2,000 tattoo for whatever reason. I highly doubt it is, and that's the only money you get. I know
you're getting scammed if
you're
it's
getting scammed if it's
palm tattoo.
I know it's not that much. Obviously, I don't know. I have no idea how much that'd be, to be honest, because it's I don't know if palms somehow are a little bit more. I'm assuming it'd be like only like $100 or $200 or something, but
if it's super important to you, go for it. And I'm certainly not like I don't like telling people like, oh, like spend your money and this or that way, because like I buy like $5 cold brews and shit all the time, and like I don't know, like I buy dumb shit. But I also think that like one thing that's important right now, and again, I don't want this to come off judgy or preachy, but if you are getting stimulus checks and you are like whatever, what I have been personally trying to do, particularly like if I get a big OnlyFans tip or, something comes out of the blue and I get a little bit of money that I wasn't expecting, a new thing that I'm trying to do is go on Twitter and like offer to cash out some people that are in need, particularly people of color or queer people or people that are disenfranchised by our society right now. Because I really think that that's the stimulation you want to be putting into the economy, and maybe find a tattoo artist that needs the work, and not just like some like like what I mean, like maybe someone, if it's especially a simple design, like find someone who's starting out maybe in their business or who's been struggling during the pandemic or who has medical issues or bills or like just do it. Like I think spend your money on what you want, but like also be mindful.
I feel like I was like Lucy. I have tattoos too, which is fine, but like I feel like that was such a Lucille Blue thing. Like, oh, Michael, how much could a palm tattoo possibly cost? $2,000. I know it's not $2,000. I know it's probably like $1,500.
You love this joke, but yeah.
Yeah. I only because I feel so stupid after I said it. Like,
and I'm not trying to judge, because maybe that's not something you've ever been able to afford, and so it's like annoying for someone to tell you, oh, don't spend the money on what you want, you should redistribute the wealth. But
what
I don't
are
know.
you doing over there?
I keep a keyboard right below my...
So you're like dun 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 dun.
Speaking of stimmy, this is like my...
Were you just hitting the keys randomly?
I was just like...
You're like really getting passionate about like all I'm saying is these imaginary chords. Well, yeah. So anywho, it sounds like we're both saying go get that tattoo, buddy. So hell yeah, rock on. Well, that was it. That was all the questions. Thank you guys so much for sending them in. Is there any kind of closing thoughts you have, Caitlin?
I wonder if you slap someone with a pentagram tattoo on your hand, if that's like just an extra like admonition in some sense. Admonishment. I don't know what the term is. That's all. That's all I have. Yeah, let us know how that goes.
Goth Yearbook After Hours at gmail.com. Let us know. Or hit us up in the Patreon by signing up and then letting us know in there.
Thank you all so much for your questions and your inquisitive spirits. We see you.
We see you. We love you. Caitlin, I will edit this out, but don't leave the Zoom room. Other than that, I'm going to say good night. Good night, y'all.
All right, good night.